we're doing something a little bit different. So before I get into the full kind of introduction, I just want to name it that I think this is the first time we're actually recording a kind of an activity that's come through kind of the Green Exodus kind of channels and work. And so our hope is that we would be able to make these sessions available for people to use apart from this evening, so that we have it accessible for people to take and use, perhaps with small groups in their own communities, just as it might be useful. So Greg, who can wave, is going to take on the task of editing this. And so he will be editing out kind of things that are of a more personal nature or might come from the breakout rooms. Yeah, so we're experimenting with this. So as we do it, feedback is welcome. We're on a learning curve here. So anyway, so glad to see each of you. Glad you can come this evening. I'm really excited to be beginning this series called Actually, This Is Just the Beginning. And I've really been grateful for the opportunity to pull together different strands of thinking and look forward to the next 5 weeks after this evening. So glad to be spending this time with you. Glad to have Tony here with us, who will be playing a role in our, as we get going. And also Greg, who will be supporting us, and Trevor. So thank you, each of you, for being here. So I'm so glad, as I've said, that you have gathered your curiosity, your courage, your desire for connection, your brokenheartedness for and with the world and the earth. You have gathered all these pieces and decided to be with others in this season of radical rearrangement. I invite you to take a moment to kind of see the other people in the room. Perhaps you can wave or smile. Some of you know one another, some of you are strangers, but we're here together. And for those of you who've hung out with me before, you know I have a bias towards creating highly participative gatherings. And this gathering is made powerful by each of us showing up fully present, resisting multitasking, and sharing our faces, sharing our eyes, our smiles, and attention. Each of us fully present is what makes this space energetic and lively. So thank you, each of you, for how you show up. Yeah, I think that as we come together, we're creating a table of grief, a table of joy, compassion, and surprising newness. And this table is also supported by the United Church of Canada nationally and locally by Chinook Winds region of the United Church. Ralph Connor Memorial United Church is a core partner. Greg Woolley, minister at Ralph Connor, Tony Snow, Indigenous lead for Hillhurst United Church, and Beth Lorimer with Kairos are the advisory team for this work. So now let us take a moment to breathe. And whenever I get to say this in the program, it's always directed just as much at me as it is at anybody else who's participating. So I invite you just to take a moment to breathe and know that we are here sustained by so much that is more than us, which some of us name and know as the amazing biosphere, which holds us with the perfect amount of oxygen, gravity, water, sunlight, and nourishment, which some of us also name as God, the Holy Spirit, Creator, Jesus, the more than us. Let us take a moment to know we are here as a result of the provisioning of so much that is more than us. So at this point, I invite you to take 3 deep breaths to know your embeddedness, to know our embeddedness in the myriad living systems of this planet. I invite you to feel the tangibility of your breath moving in and out of your body of its own volition as a sign that we are always part of interwovenness with all that has been before and all that will be. As Denise Levertov says in this wonderful poem called The Avowal, as swimmers dare to lie face to sky, and water bears them, as hawks rest upon air, and air sustains them, so would I learn to attain free fall and float into Creator Spirit's deep embrace, knowing no effort earns that all surrounding grace. As swimmers dare to lie face to the sky and water bears them, as hawks rest upon air and air sustains them, so would I learn to attain free fall and float into Creator Spirit's deep embrace, knowing no effort earns that all surrounding grace. Just give you some moments to simmer in the loveliness of that wonderful poem. So as we all come more and more fully here, I welcome you again. So I had in this spot some introductions of myself, but I think that you probably all know me here, so I don't have to do that so much, except perhaps to say that I'm a psychologist and community co-op and co-housing developer. I'm a member of Hillhurst United Church in Calgary and a member and resident of Prairie Sky Co-housing Cooperative. And this program, actually, this is just the beginning, is one of 3 programs we're offering during Lent under the mothership Radical Rearrangement. So the other 2 include Sits for the Planet, which are happening on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 8 o'clock to 8:30 a.m. and a contemplative dialogue series around a paper called Ecological Civilization by David Corton. And that's happening Monday evenings from 6:30 to 7:30. So the overall intention of Radical Rearrangement during Lent is to support us in moving from what is to what if. The quote that we adopted as a rudder, so I like that, mothership and rudder, kind of appeals to me, but anyway. The quote we adopted as a rudder from Richard Rohr goes like this. In speaking about apocalyptic literature in the Bible, and indeed the word apocalyptic hovers at the very edges of our lives these days, Richard says, apocalyptic literature is not meant to strike fear in us as much as a radical rearrangement. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of worlds that we have created. John in Revelations is trying to describe what it feels like when everything falls apart. It's not a threat. It's an invitation to depth. It's what it takes to wake people up to the real, to lasting, to what matters. It presents the serious reader with a great what if. Our best response to end our fight with reality, our best response is to end our fight with reality as it is. We will benefit from diving into the change positively, preemptively saying, come what is, teach me your good lessons. saying yes to what is, ironically, sets us up for what if. So taking that deep dive into being present and permeable to what is the very place that something new can begin. So over the course of the next 5 weeks, we'll be taking that journey together from what is to what if, and we'll be led in this journey by the work of Matthew Fox and his 4 pathways of creation-centered spirituality, which I won't go into now. We start that next week. So this evening, what we're going to do is we have a number of things that will be happening. So Tony is going to kind of lead us into some process and structures and setup for land acknowledgement. Trevor is going to share an amazing poem by Marie Howe called Singularity. I'm going to very briefly introduce you to a practice called welcoming prayer. And then I have some stories to share from mainstream media. And we'll end with a community practice of some kind of sharing in small groups, which I think most of you are familiar with. So that's kind of the lay of the land for the rest of this evening. And at this point, I'm excited and full of curiosity because I don't know what's behind the screen. Tony will be taking it from here. So welcome, Tony. So glad you're able to be with us. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for the invitation to come here and to be part of this and to share at this time. It's always a pleasure to be involved with the work that Sarah is doing. So this is the land acknowledgement portion. And for this portion, to take it into this contemplative space of understanding how we are in the land. We'll be going through the elements of the land and through the indigenous teaching around that. And so we're taking a bit of a journey, and it's mainly to bring us to an idea of one thought as we go around the circle. And we'll do this in each sort of iteration. We begin with a prayer and a smudge. The prayer is our traditional way of beginning. It is our way of acknowledging creation and of blessing, of offering this smudge, which is a gathering of herbs and medicines from the mountains that our people use to carry our prayers to the Creator. And we always begin with prayer. So we're honoring that tradition here. Let us pray. Creator God, you open the space to us, the blessing of creation, way of knowing, a way of understanding the world that we live in. We know that there are many things that we have to contend with these days, and that each person here comes with that blessing in their heart to want to do good, to want to live in a fruitful way that is a blessing to their presence and how they contribute to the communities that they are from. We ask for a blessing upon each as we delve into your thoughts and your words that you have passed along to our people. Jesus Christ, Amen. We do this as well because oftentimes in our culture we have been denied the ability to practice our spiritual teachings, and many have been lost over time. And so we do this in memory of those that have taught us, but also to revive and to remember. In this acknowledgement of land, I'll begin at this point that says, we center ourselves upon this earth. We balance who we are with where we have been. We recognize our interactions with others, indigenous belonging not forgotten, and inherited promise where a peace is honored. We give thanks for creation, who blesses us with belonging. Our duty brings us into relationship with all things, where we can remember our land story in visions of light, earth, water, and wind. in this practice, we begin with light. And so the practice of light that I've chosen to lift up here is a poem by Joy Harjo that is being read by my sister Gloria, who's also in ministry in the United Church.
A woman can't survive by her own breath alone. She must know the voices of mountains. She must recognize the foreverness of blue sky. She must flow with the elusive bodies of night wind woman who will take her into herself. Look at me. I am not a separate woman. I am a continuance of blue sky. I am the throat of the Sandia Mountains, a night wind woman who burns with every breath she takes.
As we reflect upon that, when I think about the trauma of the awareness of Indigenous women and their plight, and the awareness of the impacts of missing and murdered women, girls, and Two-Spirit people, we begin to see that illumination has a cost. And so in this image we see here, created by the students of Bearspaw School, they created a missing and murdered women dress made of butterflies. And we had a session at Hillhurst where we brought this dress to be among many of the art installations we did before the pandemic. And so we are immersed in the warmth, the beginning of the day. We are enjoined to creation and made aware by the trickle of light. It is an awareness, awakening awareness that we are entering into worlds, creation stories. We are surrounded by light and made visible to the world seen. Through the flickering of flame, we prolong this vision of the world into darkness. When light and dark surround us, we are held between two possibilities. The truth of seeing and the mystery of unknowing are held in balance. The liminal space is sacred space with the possibility of creating and undoing, where we are illuminated by and through all. This brings us to that question that we will ponder as we hold this space of what does light say about our connection to the land? And these elements will bring forward into an understanding or thinking about. And so I offer you a time to just reflect upon what light means to you, how light encourages your world. And as we take these personal reflections into the next phase, we begin to think about how these are all interconnected. And so I'll turn it back to Sarah. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate that. And my sense is that your intention is each week to add another element and enable us to kind of move through them sequentially. So that's rich. Thank you very much. And I'm just, as we're moving with the theme of paying attention to what is, it just was so poignantly and tragically appropriate, mentioning the stories of Indigenous women, especially as it was International Women's Day this week. So many layerings of appropriateness in terms of rising those things in our attention and inviting us to pay attention to what is. So thank you very much for that. And also inviting us to pay attention to what is in terms of paying attention to the changing light, as we're noticing increasing light in this season and some dramatic changes with time changes coming up soon, which most of us have an ambivalent relationship with. Yeah, so thank you. And as we kind of continue in this journey of embedding ourselves in the earth, in the elements of the earth, on Monday evening when we were meeting for our discussion around ecological civilization, Trevor shared this amazing poem, Singularity by Marie Howe, and it felt such a wonderful and appropriate fit that I asked him to share it for us as we are paying attention to what is. And part of our paying attention, it's two-pronged. I mean, it is goodness and groundedness and blessing that we experience, as well as brokenheartedness. So we're going to be moving back and forth between these, and one does not discount the other. And so, Trevor, I'm really glad for you now to share that poem with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Tony, for that lovely presentation. Awful and lovely all at the same time. It is what is, and so it's important that we rest in it. Thank you. This poem is in the genre of poetry that I love, which is sciences and humanities blending together in beautiful ways. Sometimes they're dichotomized inappropriately, and so the poets that can try and pull these worlds back together I think are lovely. So this poem was Marie Howe's attempt at that. It's called Singularity, after Stephen Hawking. Do you sometimes want to wake up to the singularity we once were? So compact, nobody needed a bed or food or money. Nobody hiding in the school bathroom or home alone, pulling open the drawer where their pills are kept. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. Remember? There was no nature, no them, no test to determine if the elephant grieves her calf or if the coral reef feels pain. Trashed oceans don't speak English or Farsi or French. Would that we could wake up to what we were when we were ocean, and before that, to when sky was earth and animal was energy and rock was liquid and stars were space and space was not at all. Nothing. Before we came to believe humans were so important, before this awful loneliness, can molecules recall it, what once was, before anything happened? No I, no we, no one, no was, no verb, no noun. Only a tiny, tiny dot brimming with is. All, everything, home. Do you sometimes want to wake up to the singularity we once were? So compact, nobody needed a bed or food or money. Nobody hiding in the school bathroom or home alone, pulling open the drawer where their pills are kept. For every atom belonging to me is good, belongs to you. Remember? There was no nature, no them, no tests to determine if the elephant grieves her calf or if the coral reef feels pain. Trash oceans don't speak English or Farsi or French. Would that we could wake up to what we were when we were ocean. And before that, to when sky was earth, and animal was energy, and rock was liquid, and stars were space, and space was not. At all. Nothing. Before we came to believe humans were so important, before this awful loneliness, can molecules recall it? What once was? Before anything happened? No I, no we, no one, no was, no verb, no noun, only a tiny, tiny dot brimming with is, is, all, everything, home.
Wow. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. So many wonderful words that we're being gifted with today. Just deeply grateful for the poets who, against huge pressures, I'm sure, carve out space in their lives to craft words. Tony, I know you do that too. And thank you for the voices of reading them. Please say thank you to Gloria for us. Thank you, Trevor. Yeah, beautiful. So what I would love to do next is I'm going to go to the section on my schedule which says 3 stories. So what I would like to do is I want to share 3 stories of women in our culture, our world currently, whose paying attention to what is unexpected, or if not unexpected in itself, has been shared in the mainstream media in some unexpected ways. And so I want to share kind of 3 stories about women who have been paying attention to what is, just as we're exploring this theme of what it means to pay attention to what is. And the first story that I want to share is the story of Zexi Lee. I don't know if that name means anything to anybody. Anybody, does that name mean anything to anyone besides me at this point? Okay, so I have a fresh story to tell you, which is always exciting. So I was not aware of this, but I happened to be listening to CBC's Sunday magazine show. And there was a fellow who was standing in for Pia, and I can't pronounce her last name, double-barreled, many-layered last name, Pia Padatajoi. He was standing in for her, and he ended up interviewing the young woman, Zexi Lee, who's a 21-year-old public servant in Ottawa, who was involved as the kind of lead person in a proposed class action lawsuit filed with the Ontario Superior Court of Justice around the horn blowing in Ottawa. So she was one of the citizens who responded to the horns and the noise of the trucks and the presence of the trucks when 3 levels of government couldn't figure out what to do. Anyway, I'm not going to go there right now because that will turn into a rant. But what was so striking about the interview with her, she was 21 years old, and there was no grandstanding. There was no kind of look at me. It was all about, I care about my neighbors. I care about my neighbors. And they are distressed, disturbed. Their lives have been broken up and shattered by these horns. And so I wanted to do something. And yes, I know I'm putting myself at risk. I'm creating myself as a target, but this is important. And it was just really interesting to hear how kind of grounded she was and how straight she was about what she was doing and why she was doing it. There was no fluff around this. It was just really impressive. And I was just, I wish there had been a woman interviewing her, because it felt a little bit like the dude didn't really know what to do with her, like to how to make sense of this, Anyway, it was really, really amazing. So that was the first kind of story of someone kind of showing up and letting the truth of what was happening impact her. So she let both the truth of the noise and the truth of the lack of action permeate her. And somehow in her story and in her personality and in her there was a space of choice, a space of action that she was able to take. So I thought that was really interesting. The second story I wanted to share, the next two both come out of Saturday's Globe and Mail. So in true United Church style, you always keep the Globe and Mail next to your kind of, your life of the spirit, your life of thinking, your life of following, because that's important. It seems to be a tradition. I've learned that from John Pentland at Halehurst United Church. You probably do that too, Greg. Anyway, not so much. Okay. Anyway, so I wanted to just share this kind of op-ed from the Globe and Mail, and it was written by Gary Mason, and I just want to read the first 2 lines. I mean, they're just so poignant. It occurs pretty much every day. I'll be sitting in some part of the house and hear quiet sobbing coming from another room. It will be my wife on her iPad, and she will have come across another image from Ukraine that is too much for her to bear. And then he goes on to talk about that. And he goes on to talk about the grief and the brokenness. And what really struck me was that would even make it into an op-ed, that he would have the space and, that they would publish this comment about someone sobbing in response to the news. I thought, wow, that feels different to me, that we can own our dismay and our brokenness in the space of in response to what's happening in the Ukraine. And then there was a similar kind of piece that was in the Globe and Mail by John Doyle, who I go to regularly because he tells me what is the next show I'm going to watch on whatever streaming service, is available. So when I run out of shows, I read him and he tells me what's good on Netflix or Prime or whatever. So I visit him quite a lot. But in this op-ed, he's talking, the headline is TV war coverage so far reveals the strength of love, not armies. So he goes on to say that there was this incident where the CNN chief international correspondent, Clarissa Ward, paused on air during her report to help elderly residents trying to leave Kyiv, even helping carry their belongings. So he goes on to I'm going to read this, what she said and what happened. So this is her reporting. Okay. These people have been under bombardment for 7 straight days and are only just leaving their homes, and they're leaving them reluctantly. And they're leaving them with the knowledge that they might not be able to go back in them. And you can see many of these people are elderly, Ward said, then paused to speak to one of the passing people, and while speaking to her, helped the woman cross the mud and rubble to safer ground. A few minutes later, she paused again to help a woman carry her bag. I'm just going to help her carry this bag a second. Excuse me, John, she said to CNN anchor John Berman. It was unsettling to see this act of entering into the story and situation she was covering. Simultaneously, it was the act that a watching world, aching to help, wanted to see. Ward filled a gap with common decency, something inside telling her she is a human being first, and that acting as a reporter comes second. So he goes on to say at the conclusion of his piece, no one expected this war to unfold in this way, paradoxically revealing a canvas filled with examples of the sturdiness of love. But all paradoxes are a mystery, and what the coverage so far has delivered is a recognition of love, one of the mysteries of human existence. Perhaps that will be part of the legacy of this war and part of the legacy of the reporting. So he's just really profoundly struck by those unique and courageous and new, perhaps, new responses to the suffering. So they really had a kind of powerful impact on me. So at this point, what will be kind of transpiring in our time together is it's really important in these gatherings that it's not just kind of the voices of folk that are providing leadership, but that you also speak, because it's in our speaking that we can discover things. So what we'll be doing in the next kind of 12 minutes or so is a community practice. So we've done some poetry practice, we've done some land acknowledgement practice, we've had some stories as a kind of practice, and now we're going to be doing a form of sharing as practice. So some of you are familiar with this, but in this model of we'll be using breakout rooms, and in this model of sharing, what will happen is you'll be put in a room with 2 other people, and each of you will take 3 minutes. You'll have up to 3 minutes to share, and you'll be given a question. And the other 2 folk, their role is to listen. So they're not going to say anything. There's not going to be any crosstalk. It'll just be you speaking for 3 minutes. The other 2 people listen. And what you're encouraged to do is, if you have a device that you're friendly with, set the timer for 3 minutes so that you know when your time is up. And then the next person will speak, and they can speak for 3 minutes. And then the next person can speak for 3 minutes. So the idea is that each of you can go into the space and can speak whatever is yours to say in response to the question. You don't need to respond to what's just been said. You don't need to agree or disagree, relate. You just can share your own story in terms of what's kind of evolving for you to say in that moment. So there won't be any crosstalk. You'll be sent into your breakout rooms, and the suggestion is you start right away. Maybe say your name and where you're residing at the moment, and then the first person will go for 3 minutes. And then when they're done, the next person will go. And then when they're done, the next person will go. And we'll give you about 11 minutes to do this, and then we'll come back. So, hi, Diane.
I'm sorry I missed that because I was on the wrong Zoom account and got booted out. So what was the question?
I will give you, I haven't actually given the question yet, Diane. I've just been giving
Thank
the,
you. Sorry about that.
oh, no, it's okay. I've just been giving the how-to, but now if I'll just kind of pause for a moment to see if there's any questions about the process. Okay, some of you have done it before. Yeah, so the question I would like you to address, and this practice is based on the work of Peter Block, who has written a book called Community, the Structure of Belonging. And it's fabulous if one is interested in community development. And he says he has 6 conversations and he uses questions. He says questions are more important than answers. And he says a good question is one that triggers some anxiety. It's one like, oh, shoot, okay, really? So so don't blame me, blame Peter Block for this question. So the question is, vis-a-vis paying attention to what is. So this conversation we've been having about paying attention to what is, kind of, what is the crossroads that you're at in terms of paying attention to what is? What is the crossroads that you are at in terms of paying attention to what is? Okay. So that's your question. So what we'll do is we'll send you into breakout groups. And I'm not sure, Greg, have you put myself and Tony into rooms as well? I'm good with that. Whatever you've done is all good.
Zoom always makes a magic decision on that. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, well, I'll see if I'm in a room. It's all good. Okay. All right, so that's the question. And we'll come back in about 11 minutes. So that's 3 minutes each. I think we're in groups of 3. So we'll see you on the other side. Okay, enjoy. I think I had been intending to read a passage from Matthew Fox, and he quotes Julian of Norwich, who is 14th century English mystic. And one of the things she talks about is how things come in joy and sorrow, which also makes me think of Bill Phipps, because his funeral service was this week, and he was a significant part of Green Exodus last winter and spring. He gave generously of his time and his presence to us as someone who's was deeply concerned about the environment. And as John Pentland was kind of doing the final sermon in Bill's honor, he referred to an occasion on a Good Friday service when Bill passed him as he was leaving, with tears coming down his face, and quoted the hymn, I forget which one it is, but love and sorrow flow mingled down. And I just feel like that's what we're stepping into here. We're stepping into that mingling of love and sorrow, and an openness to both, as we engage both with the kind of political, social crises that are impacting our planet, and the IPCC reports, which again say that the planet's heating up and things are not looking good. So we're dealing with both of those. But yeah, thank you. So as we move into a kind of period and time when I survey the wondrous cross, thank you, Tony. as we're moving into kind of some closing for our time together, I want to leave you with a quote from, you'll discover as you hang out with this series, actually, this is just the beginning in Radical Rearrangement, that we have some patron saints around here. One would be Richard Rohr, another would be Matthew Fox, and another one is Ilia Delio, who is a Franciscan, well, she's a scholar, nun, I guess. She's a Franciscan nun and a scholar, a professor, a scientist, and a theologian. And she's also one of our kind of patron saints. She's still alive also. So this is a quote that she sent out this week as part of a larger essay, which is fascinating to read, a larger blog post. Lent is a time for living on the edge, poised for the next moment of life. We are invited to get out of our comfortable centers of security and live on the brink of the incomplete, the not knowing, the open future, and to find comfort in the chaotic flow of life. So that's her invitation. So as we come to a time of closing, I just would like to invite you, I'll kind of invite each person to speak and invite you to just as a checkout say, top of mind, what are you leaving with, something you've appreciated, something unfinished, just whatever you would like to say to kind of bring our time together to a close and your kind of experience of this to a close. And then when we've each had a chance to take that opportunity, if we would like, passing is always an option. Then what we're going to do as part of our goodbye ritual is I really love for us to just kind of put our hands together and do a deep bow as a way of honoring one another in the space we've created. And then to go from the sublime to the ridiculous, kind of a goodbye, just wave goodbye. So we'll cover all the bases here.